Hey everyone, welcome to another way too early season's prediction. The team that we're going to be taking a look at today is our 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes. We're going to be taking a look at their full schedule, going game by game, seeing which games we predict them to win, lose, and what we also predict the final scores are for every single game. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. We're going team by team this offseason, trying to predict the final records for every college football season. Once the regular season starts, every week we go over every single game. We do the money lines, spreads, and the over-unders. And we also do the same thing for every NFL game once the NFL season starts also. Like I mentioned, hit that like button and subscribe. So we're looking at the Buckeyes today and their 2024 schedule. The Buckeyes, to kind of keep it simple, they have a very high ceiling this season. You have Urban Meyer coming out and saying that this might be the best college football team ever. I'm not going to go that far to say that. I think that's a bit of a stretch, Meyer. But nonetheless, it's a really good football team. They have 9 defensive starters coming back. This is a defense. Finished last year number 3 in points per game, number 2 in total yards per game, and they have 9 starters coming back. This team is going to be loaded. They hit the portal. They have a top 5 transfer portal class coming in. But the main guy coming in, you have Caleb Downs, the safety, transferring over from Alabama. You have 9 of the best defensive starters loaded with 5 stars, and you're bringing in Caleb Downs, who a lot of people have as the number 1 safety in all of college football. So that defense got even better. Main thing that held them back last year was the offense. It was in no way due to a lack of playmakers, but it was basically due to the restrictions of quarterback Kyle McCord. He's transferred off. He's off to Syracuse. Will Howard from Kansas State transfers in. He's a veteran. He's a more mobile version of Kyle McCord. He can throw, but he will use his legs. That's definitely an upgrade. And they also bring in Quinton Junkins to transfer from Ole Miss. So you have Trevion Henderson, who a lot of people had as a top 10 running back, and now you're also adding Quinton Junkins, another top 10 running back. So Ohio State might have the deepest, the best running back room in all of the country. Every year they always have one of the best wide receivers rooms. They have Egbuka, they have Jeremiah Smith. They are loaded at running back, tight end, wide receiver. The O-line solid, they're physical, and you have Will Howard at the quarterback position. They haven't named a starter as of right now, but my predictions are going to be based off of it being Will Howard as of right now. You have Jim Knowles, obviously one of the best defensive minds in all of college football. He's back. Ryan Day's at the helm, and you have Chip Kelly taking over as the offensive coordinator, who is a guy who, let's be honest, he's changed college football with his spread up tempo, starting around 2010. He changed how a lot of guys started calling plays. He's one of the most influential offensive minds ever, and he stepped down as a head coach to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, obviously taking a lot of pressure off of Ryan Day. But that's the things kind of setting up going into this season. Let's get things started. So Saturday, October 31st, you have the Akron Zips. This game is in Columbus, Ohio. This is just going to be a warm-up game. If it's Will Howard starting, you need a couple cupcake games to get familiar with the system in real time during real games. So they have a couple easy ones to kind of get some W's, get some reps in. If it's not Will Howard, you have a younger quarterback still getting reps in live game situations. Ohio State's going to win this game. They're going to win this game big. I have them winning this one probably about a 48-6, and they're 1-0, so a complete beatdown. They follow that up Saturday, September 7th versus Western Michigan Broncos. This game is also in Columbus, Ohio. With Western Michigan, sometimes they have a decent offense, sometimes they have a decent quarterback. But let's be very honest here. There's a massive talent disparity between these two games. This defense is going to be playing full speed, nonstop. They're going to be benched after the first half of this game. But the third team is just as deep as the first team. So there's going to be no let up for the Broncos. Ohio State's going to cruise to an easy win. Let's say they go into the 50s this game. They win this one 52-9. And they're 2-0. That defense is showing out. Saturday, September 14th, we have a bye week. There's no reason to have a bye week 3. But nonetheless, they've gotten some reps in. Now they can kind of take some of those things that they're learning, put that into practice during that bye week, and let's get started. So Saturday, September 21st, the Marshall Thundering Herd. Marshall, sometimes they also have a decent team. This is a little bit of a step up in the competition. Still in no way a competitive team, but every week the competition's getting better as they're leading into conference play. Look for Ohio State still to beat the crap out of Marshall. They're going to win this game 48-6. They're 3-0. Then Saturday, September 28th, a rivalry game in state. Big Ten. The Big Ten completely changing this year. You have USC coming in, the Bruins, Washington, and Oregon. So the Big Ten, one of the better conferences, just got deeper, just got rougher. Michigan State has a couple different changes going on. They have Smith coming in as the coach. They have a new 5-star quarterback coming in, but they lost almost their whole team to the transfer portal. So a complete rebuild. They're in no way going to be able to compete with the Buckeyes. They're going to put up a fight that first quarter, but then they're going to get out physical. Look for Ohio State to win this game. I'm going to say it's going to be a 38-10 game, and the Buckeyes are 4-0. And then Saturday, October 5th, the Iowa Hawkeyes. This game is in Columbus, Ohio. For the Hawkeyes, obviously Kirk Ferentz, one of the better coaches in all of college football. He has a top 5 defense every year. He had the number 4 defense last year. Very deep defensive team. They're going to keep this game close as much as they can. Kirk Ferentz finally got rid of his son as the offense coordinator. Doesn't really matter because it was Kirk Ferentz's offense that he was running, which is a god-awful, horrible offense. They're going to be ranked, obviously, every year, bottom 25 in all of college football for yards per game and touchdowns. I don't foresee that changing. Kirk Ferentz refuses to modernize his offense, but that defense, they're rough and they are legit. If they had a top 80 offense, they'd probably win a national championship, but they just won't adapt. But as long as they have that defense, they will always keep games close. I have them putting up a really hard fight here, and Ohio State not taking control of this game to the very late third, early fourth quarter, but I still have them winning. I have them winning this game 27-17, and Ohio State is 5-0. Saturday, October 12th, this is a big one. This is their biggest game of the year. I don't even think it's the Michigan game this year. It's the Oregon Ducks game. This is going to be a top 5, potentially a top 3 matchup, potentially number 1 versus number 3. You have the Oregon Ducks. Now, the Hawkeyes are going to be ranked, so this will be their second ranked matchup in a row. They're going to have been pretty beat up from the Hawkeyes game, so they might come, not limping in this game, but just a little wore out from the physical game that they played the previous weekend. And Oregon, they're going to be bringing it this year. They had a top 10 offense last year. They had a top 20 defense. They actually had the number 2 offense. But Bo Nix is off to the NFL. He's been drafted. He played in college for 10 years. You have Dylan Gabriel coming in now as the quarterback, who was a legit quarterback at UCF and at Oklahoma last year. This guy is going to thrive in this offense. He's basically a carbon copy of Bo Nix. They're the same player, just a little shorter, but he's fast and he could throw. He can easily throw 38, 40 touchdowns, run for 10 touchdowns. Probably going to have, maybe about 400 or 500 yards running and about 38 to 4,000 yards passing. So potentially a Heisman contender. He's probably number 1 or number 2 for the Heisman right now, right behind Carson Beck. So they're going to be bringing it. And they're a physical team. They are almost as talented as the Buckeyes. This is also a top 10 roster. But the Buckeyes have a top 3 roster. Right now they're rated the number 3 roster in all of college football. Whoever wins this game could easily have a rematch against the very same team in the Big Ten championship. And they also technically could play them in the playoffs. But this could be the first of a potential 2 or 3 game matchup in the same season. Whoever wins this game, though, they're going to find it really hard to win the next game versus the same team, because it's really hard to beat a good team twice in 1 year. I'm going to give the edge to the Buckeyes to squeak by this game, a really close game. I have them winning it 30-27. It's going to show how close these teams are matched. This game is in Oregon. It's going to be loud. They have the loudest stadium. It's going to be physical. It's anyone's game. If the Ducks won 30-27, I would not be surprised at all. I think these two teams are evenly matched. I think Oregon will probably have the better offense, but Ohio State's going to have the better defense. There's not too much disparity between the offenses. They're close, but even though Oregon will have a top 15 defense, the Buckeyes are probably going to have the best defense in all of college football. They're going to get a stop when they need it on 4th down, win this game. And that's going to put them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0. Then they have a bye week. They need it, 2 back-to-back ranked matchups versus really physical, really good teams. They need to rest. They are beat up. Then Saturday, October 26th, we have the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This is a team. Don't overlook them. Roll is rebuilding this team. They have a 5-star quarterback coming in. They have a top 20 defense from last year. All those guys are back. They're still going to have a top 20 defense this season. He is rebuilding this team, but even as good as they are, this is a team that could win 7 or 8 games this season, which is a massive improvement. There's still a big gap between them and the Buckeyes. The only reason the Buckeyes lose this game is if they've beat the Ducks and they're kind of just sailing and not taking it serious, or if they lose the Ducks and then they spiral and lose a second game before they get things right. But I don't have that happening. I have them winning this game about a 30-16 game, and they're 7-0. Then Saturday, November 2nd, at Penn State, Nittany Lions. This game is at Penn State. It could potentially be a whiteout game. I hope it's not like a 12 p.m. game. I hope they keep this game at night, whiteout at night. That would be awesome. Penn State, they had the number 1 total yardage per game defense last season. They had a top 10 points per game defense. Manny Diaz is off as the head coach to Duke, but it doesn't matter. They have Allen coming in as a defensive coordinator. This defense is going to be legit. They have a new offensive coordinator coming in. They have one of the better running back rooms. They have James Franklin. They have Drew Aller. They have Singletary at running back. Ohio State could easily lose this game. This is like the 4th straight week where they've had a tough matchup. I have the Buckeyes winning, though, at Penn State in a really close one. 26-20. They win. They're 8-0 as of right now, but I think this is a potential upset game. They need to be watching this game. They've had a couple big matchups. They beat some tough teams. They could be due for a loss. Even if they lose, though, it's not the end of the world. They could easily still make the playoffs. After that, Saturday, November 9th, we have the Purdue Boilermakers. Finally, they get a little bit more of a cupcake game. I have them cruising through this game, pulling their starters early because they're pretty beat up, but they still win it 37-17, and they're 9-0. Then Saturday, November 16th, versus the Northwestern Wildcats. This game is in Chicago. Northwestern came out of nowhere last season. They fired Fitzgerald. Doesn't matter. They won 8 or 9 games. No one had them winning that. No one had them winning 5 or 6 games. No one had them making a bowl game. They surprised everyone. I don't think they're going to surprise teams this year. Buckeyes will be ready for them. They're going to beat them. I think it's going to be a 40-13 game, and Ohio State's 10-0. Saturday, November 23rd, we have the Indiana Hoosiers. This game is in Columbus, Ohio. They're also going to cruise through this matchup. Hoosiers were competitive, what was that, in 2020, 2021, but they've fallen off since then. They don't have a top offense. They don't have a top defense. They're going to be completely outclassed this game, but they usually are competitive. They almost beat the Buckeyes last year. Look for the game to be close, maybe after the first or second quarter, but then it's going to be a blowout after that. I have the Buckeyes cruising through this game, second half, pulling their starters early because next week is Michigan. You don't want to take the chance of anyone getting hurt, so it kind of keeps the score a little bit closer. I have them winning 35-13 still, and they're 11-0. That sets things up Saturday, November 30th versus the Michigan Wolverines. This game is in Columbus, Ohio. Michigan, obviously, they're the big bad to the Buckeyes. They are the defending national champions, but they lost a lot. Harbaugh's gone. J.J. McCarthy's gone. All of their offensive starters are gone except one. All of their defensive starters are gone except 4. They only have 5 players coming back from their starting team. That's a massive loss. This team is deep. They don't necessarily recruit at a top 10 level, but they do adapt and build their teams at a top 5 level. They get the best out of the players they have on their roster. They're very good at development. Guys stay on these teams. They don't transfer. They stay there 4-5 years. They don't leave early. They develop, and they're always extremely good. I think they're still going to have a top 10 defense. Even with all those starters leaving, they are legit. The 4 guys they have back are beasts, and the next guys coming up are going to be just as good. Sharon Moore coming in now as the head coach. He's a very conservative play caller. I don't necessarily like his offensive philosophy, but he coached for 3 or 4 games last season, won them all in massive games. Penn State versus the Buckeyes. No matter what, he won. Handpicked by Harbaugh to take over. Trust that. I think he's going to be just fine. But you can go to my Michigan predictions video, watch that. I still have them having a really good season. I think this game's going to be close, but I think it's finally the Buckeyes' year. They've lost to Michigan 3 straight times. They got to get it off their back. I have Ryan Day doing it, but it's because Michigan, they're not rebuilding, but they don't have a lot of starters coming back, and the Buckeyes do. So if they lose this game, even if they're 11-0, if they lose this game, the knives are going to be out for Ryan Day. I mean, geez, you can't beat Michigan when they're rebuilding. That's not going to look good, but I have the Buckeyes doing it. I have them getting through this game, winning this one. It's going to be really close, but I have them getting a touchdown maybe at the end of the fourth quarter to separate things, them still winning by 10. I have them winning 27-17, finishing the regular season 12-0. Undefeated. Potential losses, obviously they could always lose to Michigan. It happens a lot, but I have them winning that game. I think the more likely losses can be Penn State or could be Oregon. Those are really tough because they could be looking ahead. Oregon is almost just as talented as them, and Penn State, they could just be so beat up, and Penn State's a legit team. But no matter what, I have them finishing 12-0, going to the Big Ten Championship, and probably rematching versus Oregon or Penn State. More than likely to me, it's going to be Oregon. And like I said, whoever wins that first game, it's going to be really hard to win the second game. It's hard to beat the same team twice in one season. If Ducks win regular season, they might win the championship. If the Buckeyes win the regular season, they might lose the championship. Either way, you're probably going to get into the playoffs. Don't forget, 12 teams get in, but if you win the conference, you get the bye week. You want that bye week. But even if Ohio State runs a table and loses to the Ducks in the Big Ten Championship, if you're 11-1 or 10-2 from the Big Ten, you're going to make the Final 12. You're going to make the playoffs. So no matter what, they're getting in there, and they still have a chance to get to the national championship and win it. This team is very talented. I'm not going to go Meyer talented and say this is the greatest team ever, because it's not. There's still questions at quarterback. That's a big deal. But it is a very talented team. Probably the best defense we've seen in a little while in all of college football. They're going to be after people, physical, getting sacks, pressures. I have the Buckeyes finishing the regular season 12-0, making the playoffs, and potentially winning the national championship. They're one of maybe 3 or 4 teams that have a legit chance to win the national championship this year. But that's my breakdown of our 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes. If you have any comments, drop them below, and I'll make sure to respond, and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.